Giorgio says it's time for Giorgio Celebrity Check. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Giorgio says it's time for Giorgio Celebrity Check. Tune in now, folks, we need to talk about this. Giorgio says it's time for Giorgio Celebrity Check.
All right, everyone. Welcome to an all-new episode of Giorgio Says, live podcast episode. Today, I have a bestie in the house. Yes, it's been too long, and I need her help discussing what we're discussing today. So please, everyone, welcome our bestie, our resident bestie, Caitlin Marshall. Hi.
Hi, bestie. How you doing? It has been far too long.
And it's weird being on the other side of things. Usually I'm joining this for your side, but we're doing something on my side today. Thank you for joining me. You were just not feeling the greatest. So thank you for pulling it together to join for this very, very steamy topic. And
yes.
So
it's a big one, y'all. I don't know that we've seen anything of this scope when it comes to a film and the two stars really going at it like this.
I mean, it's like, I think this is going to be a huge public, this is going to be a movie. This is going to be, I feel like it's a movie within a movie, Lifetime.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, like I was reading the whole complaint. Like I told you, we were just talking about it. I'm like, this is a novel. Oh my goodness. I mean, I shouldn't be finding it that exciting, but I do.
I mean, but reading it as many times as I have at this point, it does read like a novel. Like it's like, just like you can't stop reading. And it's 179 pages. So that's a lot of, but I was like, I couldn't stop reading. Who wrote this? This is great.
Well, you know, I think it's fascinating that his attorney is Brian Friedman, who is also one of the attorneys that's a part of the Reality Reckoning. So he's a good attorney. Let's just call it what it is. And so Friedman and Garagos are who usually work together. So, you know, they're busy, honey. Booked and busy.
Justin told Brian to go the distance, and that's exactly what Brian did. He said, mention it all. We want to put everything on a public website. He wants everyone to have access to every single thing so that they can decide on their own. So I kind of lean towards someone who's willing to mention it all.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a lot in Justin's lawsuit, as we just mentioned. But today I really wanted to kind of dig into this 17-point document that was needed to be agreed and signed upon to get Blake to come back to set after the strikes had ended. But there's been a little bit of confusion because in Blake Lively's lawsuit, she has 30 points in hers. So Justin side's like, well, we've never seen that document, and it doesn't seem like there's any real emails or any other context to back up that they did see that 30-point list. So he's basically got in his lawsuit every single point, the 17 points, and all the context to back up what happened.
Yes.
So.
There's some of these points they almost felt redundant that they would be placed as like something that was a condition for her to come back to set. I mean, even just something like the COVID-19 protocol, of course, that they implemented very strict COVID policies on sets as soon as they were allowed to return to set. Everyone was ready and they were going to do whatever they could to ensure that everyone was COVID free, that it was safe, for everyone's health. It just, it, it's very odd, including the portion about the intimacy coordinator when she didn't even want to meet with the intimacy coordinator prior. And what you kind of, and I'm a SAG after actor, I'm a little more privy than maybe the average Joe or average Jane to how a lot of this works. But you essentially treat intimacy scenes when you have an intimacy coordinator the way you would with a stunt. With a stunt coordinator, you have it choreographed and it has to be exactly so. Or with a stunt, someone can actually get hurt. And so typically you don't have to worry about someone getting hurt in an intimate scene, we'll say, but you treat it the same way. And why wouldn't you meet with your stunt coordinator prior to filming a stunt scene? You wouldn't just run through it the day of.
Why
you know
wouldn't you read the book that the movie and character you're playing is? You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
it's odd that that was also something. I was like, what? She didn't even
hmm
read the book.
I mean, I wasn't in the movie and I read the book. It's
Listen,
like,
and I loved the movie, to be fair. I thought it was great. I mean, listen, I'm not saying that I've said this in my previous episodes. Like, I don't think she's a bad actress. Like, I know a lot of people give her flack, but considering the roles she does get, she does
mhm.
play them fairly well.
Yes.
Um,
I think she's a good actress. She's not. Uh, no one is really Meryl Streep, or I
no.
think there was a video you had posted on TikTok that you know after reading Justin's side of things, it's very hard because it kind of one forces all of us to address our own, even women, our own internal misogyny that we kind of are like, ah, well, Blake, just this pretty girl, she needs to just back off this poor man. And it's kind of been ingrained in us for so long. But at the same time, if it's clear that something is not adding up, then you kind of have to go ahead and admit that. I did find it odd that, and this is from the video you had posted on TikTok, that Justin said he went method for this particular character. And, I'm sitting there thinking, especially since I had read the book, I'm like, well, he's not Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot. He's not Daniel Day-Lewis playing Abe Lincoln. You're
Yeah.
you're not going to go perform brain surgery. You're not a neurosurgeon, and obviously you're not going to be going and being abusive to your partner. So I think him putting that out there was also detrimental to his own image, because from an acting standpoint, the only thing that makes sense is that if he took it as method, that he stayed in love with Lily when he left set, and that he also kept the layered childhood trauma that Ryle had when he left set. But it just seems like there were so many unnecessary things. This wasn't a role, in my opinion, that you go, let me go method for this. Like, you don't, if you are doing the work you're supposed to do to be in a character, you don't have to do a method acting exercise in yourself for a character like this. You're not putting on a different accent. You're not playing a factual person. There's no limp that you have to incorporate that you don't want to forget as you're filming.
Mm-hmm.
This is about doing the work. And so it felt like, especially reading the messages between them back and forth, it was just a lot of, it was too much. It was a lot of unnecessary verbiage. It was a lot of unnecessary, just over the topness to it. And I'm trying to explain this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm just like, oh, they're just being artsy fartsy actors, because I understand that aspect. It almost felt like they were constantly going back and forth trying to fluff the other up. And I started wondering, is it flirtation or is it manipulation? You know what
Well,
I'm
there is
saying?
that rumor now too with all of this. Did she perhaps catch feelings? Or was he just enticing her because he knows how powerful she is and he didn't want to piss her off? Considering reading through this, it kind of felt like he didn't really have a choice. I mean, of course he had a
Yeah.
choice, but he really was concerned about getting this movie done, and I feel like it just reads like she just swooped right on in, and Ryan and Taylor just were like, actually.
Well, and that also lends to, if he did indeed go method, then she may have been misinterpreting his behavior toward her, because his character is supposed to love her. And so it's like, oh, with them, hey, honey, I get it. They're both gorgeous.
Yeah, like that's the other part to this. Like, these are two gorgeous human beings, for God's
Mhm.
sakes. He's like a self-proclaimed feminist, gender equality, like, so watching the movie, I was looking at it like, if you took all of TV and media away from me and you just sat me in a room, made me watch this movie, I would assume that something happened on the set, because there was definitely chemistry
Yeah.
between these two, not just between the intimacy scenes, but just in general. There was like this
Yeah.
tension you could feel. Like there
Mhm.
was, that's why I say, like, it wasn't like she was horrible in the movie, but it got
No.
lost. It slowly
She had
got
more
stripped from his
chemistry with,
hands.
and by the way, hi Miriam. Nice to see you, bestie. Which, to be honest, I felt like she had more chemistry with Justin. I'm sorry, I forgot the guy's name who played Atlas. But thank you, Jeff. We're still working on the digs here. Um, I like to call it eclectic drag queen chic is kind of the vibe I'm going for in this room. So
Okay.
basically, yeah, you know, it's a term I am just gonna coin. Um, I can't coin it anyway. Yeah, I felt like she had much stronger chemistry with Justin than she did with the actor who played Atlas. So that has to lend to something, But at the same time, I thought she had fantastic chemistry with Jenny Slate. But at the end of the day, the problem really comes down to a few very specific things, especially when you go through those points. Is that one, Blake is making it clear that there's something that happened that she was not okay with, whether it be something that has any actual basis for her to be putting these, insinuations in these points. Because all of those points, let's be real, they were all about safety and about any type of sexual harassment. There was nothing in there, and safety goes hand in hand with the COVID and the health thing, and wanting a third party producer to supervise. It was really intense. And so it makes you wonder what actually happened. And that's where I think the biggest mystery is. And what was it, feelings? Was there a night that maybe they were working on things together and it went a little too far? I don't know. None of us
I
do.
I had a thought, and this is just a theory.
Hmm.
I had this thought that perhaps maybe because of allegedly how they met, Ryan and Blake, on the set of Green Lantern, then just coincidentally they both left their respective partners and then got married on a plantation. Uh, but aside from that, it's like I thought about it in the context of like Ryan to me comes off like the guy that really doesn't want Blake to necessarily get too high up there, because he still wants to keep her where he can kind of be the saving grace, the man, like he's the powerful Hollywood influence and he gets stuff done. Like I reference back to that text actually
Hmm.
where she says she's Khaleesi and she's got the dragons, and she's referring to Ryan and Taylor and probably
Mm-hmm.
others, but those two mainly. And so we kind of figured those two obviously are influences in
Yeah.
her life and career, but her husband specifically. And I thought to myself, perhaps maybe Ryan noticed that they were getting along so well, and he's talking about she would have him come over to rehearse scenes and they'd be up late, and he was taking pictures holding her child and like all these things. It's like, what if at some point Ryan got really jealous and was like, absolutely not. This is not going to continue. Like, you guys are like because he probably was like, lose them how you got them kind of mentality. Because I would imagine if you guys are cheating with your respective partners, then you'd always in the back of your mind be like, oh, maybe this movie
Right.
said he's a good looking guy. Like, he's, like that
Well, and there's
Instagram post where she commented when he was doing his workouts. Did you see
right. No, actually.
that? Oh,
No,
let me
I
see if I
didn't.
have it still. It's funny
There's
because it was
something
like before it was before they started filming the movie, so I think it was like pre-production. But she had commented under it, and she said, "Great, now do it after giving birth, or do it."
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So
So
and that actually goes hand in hand with something that I do want to point out. She had just had her 4th child. Like, oh my God.
like 6 months
Number
prior, I
one,
believe. Like, it was just 6 months
which,
that she had just
yeah,
had
that
the
is
baby.
very soon.
Mhm.
You're only, she had only been able to maybe start really getting back into a workout that maybe even was like the easiest base level of what she is normally doing when not pregnant. Also, 6 months, uh, I breastfed until my son was 6 months old. So we did see that she was still pumping, things like that. On top of that, there are a lot of ways that you feel after giving birth because, you know, I'll never forget kind of realizing, oh my God, I am not going to look the way I did before. And it just didn't quite register to me until, this is her 4th, so this wouldn't be as much of a shock to her. But there's that, and I
Mhm.
imagine she had probably gotten to a place where she felt comfortable with her body. And we did see a lot of exchanges about her being stressed about when the intimate scenes were going to be filmed, that she wanted more time to get her body there. And that's totally understandable. I felt that his responses were very kind and supportive.
Mhm.
And I also have to wonder what some of the postpartum hormones might have been doing. Anyone who's listened, watched you and I on mine, I've been very open about how I dealt with postpartum OCD, postpartum rage, postpartum anxiety, and the way you feel in your body. If your actual house that holds your being is not something that you're feeling great about, you can't help but wonder where if maybe there was some outside validation saw it. I think I think people forget what postpartum hormones can do to a woman, whether it's her 1st or 12th child. And so part of me wonders if maybe there was a little bit of that in there.
Oh, I'm sure there was I think this is layered. I don't think it's so black and white
Right.
because you do spend a lot of time together. And if you're doing pre-production before you start filming, there's a lot of stuff that happens along the way. And this is not a corporate office setting. So like, I think like people also need to understand, and I kind of said this earlier in the week when I was kind of giving little updates on it, because a lot of people on Instagram specifically, like I said, I won't do the updates about this on Instagram because for whatever reason, the people on Instagram can't see past things. So it's very like, you know, they love Blake, and so it doesn't matter. They don't want to see anything else. It's she said this, so that's what happened. And that's kind of like this, no one wants to look at anything logically is my point. And so it's
Yeah.
hard to not look at all the things that he's included in his.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go back to hers and it seems so very much streamlined, and there's a narrative and it's going along and they're using keywords. So
And that's the thing, is just because you're looking at different viewpoints and trying to make an informed decision doesn't mean that we believe women any less. That is
no.
number one. We believe women when they say something happened. At the same time, I'm not a fan of anyone using something unnecessarily to further an agenda. I'm not saying that's what she's doing, but we have to get the information. the thing is that kind of gets frustrating for me in a lot of these type of scenarios is just because you tell us and give us this information doesn't mean that we have to agree with you or have the same opinion, and that's I know you know what I mean. So that's where we're human beings who think with as many aspects of our brains as we can, and that's what we're doing. I can't help but wonder, Giorgio, after reading this complaint, maybe some of them were bots.
I mean, it could be, but honestly, like most of this like PR thing that she's
Yeah.
claiming, I do not see how she's going to be able, whatever she thinks that she's got, like her response today was giving
Mhm.
very much Amber Heard. And on the TMZ title, now we're throwing in the word abuse. So it seems very calculated. So it's hard
Yeah.
to not see. Listen, I'm going along with whoever's putting it all out there. And they even have video footage to back up the like context that they've written down here outside of the screenshots. So unless she's got
And she
something
might.
really, and she may,
Yeah.
absolutely, but based on the
Mhm.
lawsuit she filed and the things included to back up the actual things that she's going after them for, I
Mhm.
don't I don't see after reading his side of it how it's going to stack up. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing at the end of the day. What you and I do when we talk about things, we try and come at it from an angle that we know there's probably going to be more information to come out. And we're not saying who's fully right or wrong because we don't know yet. And to be frank, it sounds again like I know kind of the type of guy that it seems Justin Baldoni is, which yes, look, I'm always going to be all for someone a man who is very much like I am a feminist. We listen to women. We believe in gender equality, things like that. And I think a lot of people want to see someone like that be proven otherwise. Uh, I also know that the type of that I know that actor. You know what I mean? Like that guy that's like that. And a lot, and I think he's one of those that is he's probably touchy-feely, and, he's probably and this is just what I imagine because I've been around a lot of those type of actors, and it can be misconstrued, and, one of those type of guys that's very in touch with his emotions and very open to talking about vulnerabilities and very verbose. And I mean, all you have to do is read the messages. Ironically, it felt like Blake was more about being verbose and trying to really it was I just can't explain how it almost made me groan reading those messages where I was like, "Guys, come on." You're
Well, she used the
do
word ball buster. So
right.
technically speaking, like you are, and there was so many times in there where it almost started to feel like if they didn't play along, she would halt everything and it would be like, "No, I'm not coming back until you give me what I want. I'm not coming back to set with that fashion wardrobe that you spent months building based off the actual book and the story and
Lily
whatnot.
Bloom would
No,
not be wearing Louboutins. When I
no,
saw in
not
that
those
scene she was wearing
Louboutins.
Louboutins,
Not those Louboutins. Those Louboutins that were in the movie. Come on. Even
this
the
is not
flower
Gossip
shop,
Girl.
let's be honest, the flower shop was a little over the top in terms of what a real small business owner like Lily would have been able to do realistically. So no, she wouldn't
Mhm.
have been wearing those Louboutins with the crystal like
Snake or something on him or what was it
it
like?
was an encrusted heel of some sort. I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like I don't know what it, but nonetheless, those would not be in her budget realistically. But it also
And
felt like
why
it was
you
supposed
zoomed
to
in on
be,
those too?
she really wanted it to be more superficial, I think, because she was already feeling probably not her best when she got, because when you look at some of the messages when she talks about the working out and she's like, it's
Mhm.
going to be a process. Can we shoot basically, can we shoot the scenes where I have to be sexy towards the end of the movie so I
Right.
have more time? Totally fair, by the way. And even then, his responses are like, we can talk about whatever will make you feel and look your best. Don't worry, you're going to be great. Like, that's the same tone throughout this whole entire thing when you look at all his screenshots. So for me, and I've gone digging to see, okay, because I didn't really know who he was until this movie came about in this controversy. But
Yeah.
it was hard, honestly, to find anything where he was not who he presents himself to be. Whereas you go
Well,
to
and
her
that's the thing
side and it was
too.
like, you could pull up a various amount of videos of her from Gossip Girl days where she's telling people on a panel that Leighton Meester was born in a cage, like referring back to Leighton Meester's parents being in jail
Mm,
when she was born, and
yeah.
just things like that. And yes, she is snarky. Yes, she has dark humor. And yes, that can be funny, but it also can lean towards being really mean and
Yes.
manipulative, in my opinion.
Here's the thing. I have to say this. Blake knows she's a stunning woman, that
Sure.
she holds a huge presence when she walks in a room. There is a certain way to have that very dry sense of humor, and I've noticed it really adapt more to try and fit in with her husband Ryan's sense of humor. And the way I've heard her speak to people in interviews, you know, it doesn't come across funny because she doesn't know how to do that. I think she can be funny? Yes, I'm sure she can. I think that it just comes across as rude. I mean, I hate to go back to that same journalist who has her own things that we've seen that, she's been supportive of certain people maybe when she shouldn't have, and she always seems to have an issue with some celebrity she's interviewed. We have to call that spade a spade.
Are you talking about
But
Kjersti, I think, the
yes, yeah.
Norwegian interviewer?
Mhm. That
Yeah.
that whole congrats on the bump. Look. wha- I mean, come on. That whole thing, the way Blake reacted, if you wanted to be snarky back and you were pissed about someone making a comment about your bump, there are a lot of things you could say, but then being like, "Yeah, congrats on yours." No, that it was like this very clear thing. And listen, I've been pregnant. I had more people comment on my body when I was pregnant than I ever imagined would. And it was horrible things. But it was just kind of, it feels like, in my opinion, after reading all of this and seeing how she's behaved in the past, there are things that go beyond it's always taken a step further than necessary, is
Mm-hmm.
basically where I'm trying to get with that. Um, it's like, oh, she perceives as one slight, she's gonna come back with an anvil, and it's gonna be a bomb.
Well, I've talked about this before, but I talked about it from the angle of their zodiac signs because that plays
Oh, what are
heavily into
they?
they. So this is from the beginning. I knew this was going to be a
Let me guess, he's a
really
Cancer,
public
right?
war. No, he's an Aquarius.
Oh my god, of course.
So
Why do you all
explains why he took his time to come up with everything because he stays quiet. He observed and looking through everything, and that's a little bit biased, yes, because I'm an Aquarius, so but I can reason with some of this logic, the way it's been put
is she a
together.
Leo?
No, she's a Virgo with a Leo ascendant. So take everything
A
about a
hair.
Virgo, take everything about a Virgo, and then add that Leo ascendant in there.
Oh my
But here's
god.
the kicker. Here's the kicker. Because Virgos are they can twist the truth and manipulate it and make someone look like something they're not if they wanted to, because they're so good at over analyzing the devils in the details with Virgos.
Mhm.
So Justin is I believe, an Aquarius sun with a Virgo ascendant. So now you've got those dynamics at play, and they're obviously approaching this very differently based on that, but it's just been interesting seeing how they're
Hmm.
both taking these jabs. Well, this is not a jab. This is pretty big. $400 million is not just a simple lawsuit. This is
Well, yeah, and I don't think for him it's even about the money. I don't think, or
no,
nor is it for Blake and Ryan. I
no.
think just the fact that they got WME to drop him, that is devastating for anyone who is considered talent. And I find it odd that they would drop him so quickly. And I have to say, to me, because Blake and Ryan are both talent on William Morris Endeavor, and if they're going to question who brings us more money, well, there you go.
Well, I don't know, guys. It seems like it's really going to be giving this very soon. Okay.
It ends in court. Yes.
And shout out. I know what you guys are here for. I posted on my Instagram the video version, but yes, this is exactly what exactly the first thought that came to my mind when this thing came out in Variety. I was like, he just was like, we're gonna just dump gasoline all over this, and we're just gonna.
He is a handsome man. Listen, I love reading lots of the spicy romance fantasies, and he definitely looks like he would fit right in as one of those characters, and he probably would have been a contender at least for one of those if all of this wasn't happening. So
well,
I hate to see it.
At least he has a good family, it seems, around him that can at least, because that to me, I can see through his content. It seems genuine. I don't think that they're putting a front up in that way. So
I see a comment that I think someone misunderstood what I was saying about Justin. No, my imagination is that maybe Justin being a touchy-feely person was misconstrued. Now, you should never touch anyone unless they want you to or consent for you to, especially in a work environment. But this is what's difficult. I believe women, and I don't think we always have to have solid proof, obviously, evidence in this way for something like that to be true. What I would say is this all is seeming very surface level and not quite as deep as what the allegations are, but I could be very wrong. But I'll say I don't want to be wrong because I don't want that for anyone. Does that make sense?
I mean, listen, there's two people involved. There was things that happened, I'm sure, on both sides. So it's not for me, I'm going to listen to everyone who comes forward. But then if you're going to take it a step further and start accusing people and then take it this far, then we need to see evidence, and you need to build that's just the way it works. Otherwise, we can't do that because Blake Lively is not believing all women. Leslie Sloan isn't believing all women.
I love that video you did on that.
And everyone got mad at me on Instagram for that video because they thought I was digging up her past and her mistakes. These are not mistakes. She's still aligned with Leslie Sloan.
First of all, if
fully spoke out after the Weinstein thing, she just said, I didn't have that happen to me, but everyone should listen to everyone. Like, yeah, that's the easy PR way of spinning something. Word salad. That's what it gives with her. Even on the press tour, when the question would come up, so what about the book made you really want to dive into Lily? And she would just give a word salad answer, nothing that actually was an answer to the question because she didn't read the book. And it's clear reading this that, there's even mention that she Googled to see what color Lily's hair was rather than just pick up the book. That's just these pieces.
The book would have taken her a week to read at most. With her schedule, it would have taken her a week. She could have read it in the back of the car going to events. My God. And that, to me, I'm sorry, y'all bear with me, but that as an actor is the laziest shit you could ever pull. And I mean that with my entire heart. You didn't read the book, Blake? Give me a break. You want us to take you seriously as an actor? Do the work. That's not doing the work. I'm sorry. That
But
that
she
lights a
has
fire on me.
discussed in that video. I talked about this, about the method acting that Justin utilized, it seemed, from his own interview. But she has also said during the press tour that she's the type of actress that needs to be produced. She's not someone that can just jump into clothes, give lines to herself to memorize and then figure it out. She needs someone there that's going to guide her. These are
She
her
needs
words.
direction, which
Right.
that's why you have a director. But if you are an actor who is in it to live the life of the character that you are going to play, I'm sorry, this is not directed at you, Giorgio, I know. But this is what I find very. What was that? Oh my God.
An explosion.
Scared the shit out of me.
It's an explosion.
To take the opportunities you have when there are people spending their time in classes learning how to develop characters that are in line with a script, that is wild to me. And that to me, it takes me out of anything I could watch her, because all she does is go, okay, well, just tell me what to do. No, your job as an actor is to dive into the history of that character, find their moments before, find the beats, things like that. And that's also, I'm going to be honest, it's thinking about it now. I wonder if Ryan rewriting, which I think is wild that he rewrote so many scenes.
Well, yeah, I think he's her ghostwriter. I think that's the point here. Listen, when you look at it from where she comes from, she's an uber privileged Hollywood Nepo baby who, yes, has a lot of resources at her fingertips from a very, very young age. She has access to whatever she wants. No one tells her no, probably. She's with a guy that will appease that, and he can script her however he wants for the public to think that they're this funny and they just like do these. No, that's all him. He scripts all of that. How many people come out and say that's not how he is in real life? He's, and then reading some of this, you're like, yeah, that kind of seems like it could be true. I also feel like she is insecure as well as an actress, because she hasn't had a big moment, and I think this is more.
I'll tell you why, because she doesn't do the work.
Well, no,
she doesn't do the work.
Not.
This tells
she didn't
me
read the
absolutely.
Book. She didn't read the book.
No,
she didn't meet with the organization that he had set up to meet with, because he was giving 1% of the proceeds from the movie to one part of the organization. I think the nomore.org was the one that he was in discussion with early on. He's the one that built a relationship with Colleen Hoover. And it just felt like she walked in being herself, looked around and was like, this isn't as girly and pretty, and I could fix this, and I'm going to get my way, because she's never been told no.
She should have never been on this film. I'm sorry, but this needed an actor who was going to, I keep going back to this. That is being lazy in your job. And that is expected. It's a sense of entitlement. And now, I'm sorry, now the more I'm thinking about it, the more frustrated I am by it, by the fact that there were so many actors who could have done Lily. And I'm not saying Blake didn't do a great job. I really am not. And I have always really liked Blake Lively. And I want to be clear about that as well. I'm very frustrated by the idea that you think because you've already made it, you don't have to do the work. You want to just show up on set, look cute, and keep things surface level, then go do a rom-com. Don't go try and do a film that is about something that real people go through. You know what? An actor who really wanted to do the work not only obviously would have read the book, they would have gone and met with women who have been through this. They would have tried to understand the nuances of why these women go back. And because if you don't have that understanding, then you're judging the character. And if you're judging the character, then you've already lost it. And I have to say, there were moments in it where I could tell she was doing a great job, but it felt to me like she was, instead of going deep enough to realize that Lily is this woman who's in love with a man who is scaring her. She was just scared of him. She didn't add enough layers. I'm sorry, I'm taking this in a totally different direction. But if you notice those scenes, she's just scared. She's not, because there is a lot to that type of moment.
Totally, but I will say this, and what I picked up on, there was not maybe all the moments, but there was one moment where I was like, I felt on eggshells. And it was the moment where he makes her read the blurb
Yes.
about the restaurant that Atlas owns.
Yes.
Okay. That moment, whatever direction she did take because she had to have, that was the only moment in the movie, that whole unfortunate scene where she actually breaks free and leaves finally. That was the only time where I sat there uncomfortable, in the sense of you could feel just how much on eggshell and scared, but all at the same time, and also trying to calm him down and keep him centered and trying to keep him from further reacting. So all of those elements in that particular scene, to me, were the only realistic. The others were more, yes, scared or confused or things like that. But I think she also was approaching it. It was probably approached differently because she didn't read the book. So she didn't have a full grasp of who Lily was from front to back, it seems. And so maybe the scenes that involved DV got a little too real for someone who isn't.
She wasn't ready to go that deep, and that's fine. It's a scary thing to film, because you are supposed to, as that person, you are in it. And if she wasn't ready to do that, she shouldn't have done it. And I think that's probably just my thought process here. And this is just maybe some of my guessing. Maybe some of the things that led to, especially if there was some method of him maybe behaving a certain way toward her. And when I say behaving, being colder to her or making her feel like she was on eggshells, because again, you have to remember that as well, which I will say, again, I don't think he should have been going method for a role like this. It didn't feel necessary to me, but that's just me. I'm no expert.
Well, I'm not obviously an actor, so I'm definitely not an expert, but I did appreciate the fact that when you look at Ryle as a character, I think because he wanted this to be so serious and because he wanted everything to be through the female gaze, like he wanted everyone female on this, that could make this as real as it could be, right? I did appreciate that, the method acting part of it, not because it was necessary, but because maybe he wanted to make sure that it came off like someone who is like that, acts like that. And how do I do that? And how do I get into that mindset? And also, like I've heard with other actors, like one in particular, where I think it's the guy, I don't remember his name, but he played Jesus Christ in Mel Gibson's
I can't remember his name either off the top of my head.
So his sister came into a place that I worked at, and we built a rapport. And she explained to me that he was never the same after that movie because of the fact that he had to go in and out of such this dark space with the character and learn Aramaic and like be in that headspace for so long that he moved all the way up into the hills and like isolated himself.
But that's
because
that's
he
another
stayed in
reason.
it. So I would imagine he probably, because he even said in the interview where he was talking about it, that there was moments where based on Blake's reaction, he knew he took things too far. So,
but that's part of the point, is like, it's for your own mental health as well. That I'm telling you, you go on just about any set, like I said, unless it's something like I said, like Daniel Day-Lewis playing Abe Lincoln, there is going to be a collective internal groan at someone being like, oh, well, they're going to go method. I mean, because you also have to think about Jared Leto tried to go method playing the Joker, and we all know how that turned out. I'm not saying Justin was sitting there sending engraved bullets to Blake, because that I found highly inappropriate for anyone to be doing on any film set. That's insane, the things that he did. But it's also kind of like, it's a protection of, it's protection for the actor's mental health. It's also, you have to come out of it at some point. And it's a little too much to do it with, like I said, with a character like this. I could understand playing, a historical figure, playing someone who's a real person, someone who is very much out of the realm of who you are as a person. And I'm not, because obviously from what Justin has been very, I would say, public facing with the type of person he is, Ryle would be the opposite of the type of person that he is.
Mhm.
Something that I did also find interesting is how those text message exchanges between Justin and those two editors that he had hired, how Blake had taken over the editing, right? And she had her cut. I had already remembered hearing about this. And they had separate screenings of her cut of the film and
Mhm.
their cut. And it's fascinating to me that Blake's cut had a higher rating amongst men who wasn't their target audience, and Justin's did amongst the women. And I think it's something that really that piece of information lends a lot more to the fact that Blake wanted to keep this a very surface level project when it was at a certain point disrespectful to do that. It sounds like she just kind of went rogue, like you were saying. She doesn't get told no. And she was like, well, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I think it was one of those fuck around and find out.
Well,
And the
I
public
mean,
responded.
I think I think she's about to find out, it looks like, unfortunately, because she might want to settle actually. But
Yeah.
I
And
think
I'm
she's
not,
gone in too far now because based on the statement that her legal team put out in response to Justin's, kind of annoyed me a little bit because it felt like, did you guys even read what he put in there? Do you guys realize what that makes your lawsuit look like in terms of the weight in her claim? Like, so just so everyone's aware,
mm,
Blake's legal team wrote this. This latest lawsuit from Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and its associates is another chapter in the abuser playbook.
oh
This
gosh.
this is an age-old story. A woman speaks up with concrete evidence. First of all, where did you go? Did you look? Did I miss it? Where's the concrete evidence of
I mean,
sexual
I didn't see it.
harassment? Okay.
I didn't see it.
And
But maybe there's more.
retaliation, and the abuser attempts to turn the tables on the victim. This is what experts call DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim offender. Wayfair has opted to use the resources of its billionaire co-founder to issue media statements, launch meritless lawsuits, and threaten litigation to overwhelm the public's ability to understand what they are doing is retaliation against sexual harassment allegations. They are trying to shift the narrative to Miss Lively by falsely claiming that she seized creative control and alienated the cast from Mr. Baldoni. The evidence will show that the cast and others had their own negative experiences with Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer. The evidence will also show that Sony asked Miss Lively to oversee Sony's cut of the film, which they then selected for distribution and was a resounding success. Their response to sexual harassment allegations, she
Oh,
wanted it.
Jesus.
It's her fault. Their justification for why this happened to her, look what she was wearing. In
Oh, come on.
short, while the victim focuses on the abuse, the abuser focuses on the victim. The strategy of attacking the woman is desperate. It does not refute the evidence in Miss Lively's complaint, and it will fail.
Okay. I find some of that language in there very, again, unnecessary. No one, no one's been talking. Uh, no one's been talking about what Blake was wearing or not, except Blake trying to get us to talk about what she's wearing because she has a fantastic sense of style. Let me just be clear about that. And she doesn't even have a stylist. I think she just an impeccable innate sense of style. So uh, she found it to be an opportunity to dress up in floral patterns. Okay, go ahead. You do your thing, girl. Um now there were things in her complaint, if Justin was indeed doing things like showing her nude photos of nude women and continuously talking about, I believe, having a past porn addiction, that is uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about that. It has nothing to do with our collaboration process. Don't talk to me about that. I'm in full agreement that that is completely inappropriate. That being said, the other aspects, it's almost I just can't stop using the word unnecessary and too much. It's so many more words than we need. They didn't need to respond with that much. It seems like it.
So you're saying Justin's team pretty much screenshot vomited in there?
No, I'm talking about what Blake's team that was a statement from Blake's team, correct?
Yeah.
Sorry. To clarify,
This one.
Yes, that you just read.
Like they overdid it with the statement is what you were saying.
Yes, and I think they would have looked a lot better. Now, again, I'm no expert in PR, but I think it's pretty simple. They should have said, while, something along the lines of, yes, Justin and his team of lawyers have provided information, but we have more information and we look forward to proving our case. That's about it. Don't say much more. It's too much. It's so verbose that it's like, why did you take it that far?
Are they maybe counting on the fact that maybe no one's going to read through any of this in the end and they'll just go off of the narrative that they've been putting out? Because it seems like, well, A, she clearly doesn't read the book. So why would she think that? Does she even read her own lawsuit? Does she realize what is stacked up against in terms of what he's put out versus what she's put out? So again, going back to concrete evidence, he's got video, the dailies, to back up his claims, which is probably why Brian came out swinging, which is why he was so confident to go the distance.
Mm-hmm. But, I will say in a workplace, it is sexual harassment to be showing nude photos of people to your coworker, to continuously talk about your past porn addiction. No one needs to hear about that. Talk about that on your podcast if you want to. But I don't know. It's hard because as a woman, I want to just be on the woman's side. And
Sure,
I'm not, I haven't been given enough.
But yes, because in theory, why would someone make that up? So if it's something like that, yes, I would believe that happened, because why would you make something up like that? But does that mean that doesn't happen where we like, hello, Amber Heard? I hate to, it's not comparable, obviously, but that's another one that used this whole Darvo, situation in her situation, and we ended up finding she was a hot mess.
They both were. And
Totally.
I think that, and I hate being like, well, everybody sucks here, but
she's the
even
one that she took a number 2 on the bed in the end. So like, you lose. Like, you're a grown adult.
Really
why are you doing
bizarre.
that?
I don't
Anyways.
know. People do that type of thing way too
Also,
often, like in fitting rooms.
I do want to point out, no need to be sad, Virgos. We love you.
No, I love some
love the
Virgos. Yes.
I have a lot of Virgos in my life.
My
Much
son is a
respect to
Virgo
the
moon.
Virgos. So nothing against Virgos. All I'm saying is, just like with Aquarius, we have our good and our bad, and depending on what's going on, depending on where we're at, I'm just saying all of that plays into each other. So no
Listen,
Virgo
none of y'all
hate
are the
over
most
here.
hated sign in the Zodiac, which is me. I'm a Scorpio, so
Yeah,
don't
you guys
worry.
get a bad rap. You guys get a
Yeah, we
bad
sure do.
I think the whole thing that has brought us to where we're gonna go now is I've kind of looked at both, and I've kind of broken it down by like evidence-based claims, tone strategy, PR, and power dynamics, credibility assessment. Just because there's so much in his, right? But when you specifically look at like just the one part where he's going back to her 17 points, it just feels like things got twisted and cherry picked. And if we're wrong, great. Bring the concrete evidence, as you said in this statement. But I don't know what evidence if he's got video.
You know,
Like,
at the end of the day, because you and I we're not trial and jury. We're just,
no.
we take what we're given and we try and formulate an opinion on that. And I know you very much would view this the same way I would, which is, look, it is not, I think goes without saying, but it's absolutely not acceptable if he did full, I mean, but if he was showing her pictures of nude women, that it's hard without context, but at the same time, that is in a workplace sexual harassment. I would consider it that if some man I'm working with starts, look at this, I'd be like, why are you showing me that? I would be highly uncomfortable. So if that's what was happening, then yes,
But
I
is
want her to put that
yeah,
out there, that
yeah, but she didn't even put, like, the thing is, the photo though, there was no nudity. It was actually, it was just a photo of the home birth. It wasn't, you couldn't
no, she
see.
in her complaint. In her
Oh,
complaint, I'm talking about was that he would continuously like be talking about a past porn addiction and be showing nude photos of women, things like that. So if that type of thing was happening, absolutely, that is unacceptable and cannot happen in a workplace. Period. That's uncomfortable. I wouldn't like that.
totally. No, of course not.
So, I think just because you and I both are making it clear from what we're given at this point in time, we're like, well, Justin seems more credible in his story. We Neither one of us is saying we don't believe Blake. Neither one of us is saying that he's right, she's wrong. We're just kind of going, well, where's your evidence, Blake?
I can't say for sure who's right and who's wrong, but if I'm going to
No.
go off of what they clearly want us all to look at, and they want to go off receipts, because we were not on that set. We're never going to know the truth.
No.
It's his side, her side, and then the truth's in the middle. But based off of
Exactly.
what's being presented, it's steering closer to we're siding with Justin. And I'm not saying I'm siding with him, but as of right now, if you presented both side by side, I'd be
And we
like,
didn't know who they were.
totally. Take Blake and take all of that out of it and just look at it as much as you can. And that's hard. But you can't deny also the way in which her receipts are attached are like
And edited.
almost correct. And so the fact that he's got like straight up screenshots, because you can just tell all they did was have to go back in and like block out like important
Yeah.
information. But outside of it, yes, could those have been altered? Yeah, but you can go, I would assume, and validate that, because
They would have forensics
correct.
go through it.
So if that's the case, then that will get found out. But that would be pretty ballsy, no, of Justin to pull a stunt like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because at the same time, this story could have taken such an impactful type of message to people who are DV survivors. And that goes across any gender. DV can happen to anyone. And it could have really proven something for people who were contemplating leaving someone who they are in an abusive relationship with. And instead, it turned into this circus. And it's unfortunate. I don't know what else to call it. It's a missed opportunity, actually, is what I would call it.
Yeah, I think this is all. I mean, obviously, it takes away from the message of what the movie was really supposed to be about and what he wanted it to do. And not that it wasn't successful, but I don't think this was what he wanted to come out of it. So that's why I always look at it like, who's the most powerful person in the room? Because that is where you can. To me, it doesn't work the other way around. Like, could you sexually harass your boss? I mean, I guess you could seduce your boss, right, if you wanted to, but would that technically be harassment? Like, would you have the
Yeah.
power to do that, I guess? I mean, yeah, I guess you could come on to your boss and that would be considered sexual harassment if you did it over and over again. But I guess you couldn't do anything to your boss if he turned you down.
I mean, yeah, there are so many different scenarios in that sense, but I mean, it's a lot of times that sexual harassment comes from a position of power. Um, and we have to acknowledge saying that at the beginning of this, it was technically on this film. If you want to go for credit, Justin would have been in the more powerful position because producer, director, he's a part of that studio. But when you come down to actual star power, where Blake's at in her career, then yeah, that's where the power lies. But on that set, he was actually top dog as a producer and director. So it's kind of that's where it's a little tough. But that being said, I hate to see how this went. Like I said, it's just such a missed opportunity. Blake could have really made an attempt to
I mean, guys,
show us
come on. What? Like,
that's not being allowed to
really?
be on the red carpet and go into his own premiere. Yeah.
And this is what Bethany was talking about when she made that post, actually. And that's what was so confusing to her because she was like, the theater was empty when we walked in and it was weird. And then she ended up leaving early. But these photos, I mean, and then also there was someone he had brought to the premiere that was sick or something, and she later passed, but she was also in the basement with him because they were put in a different theater. But it was just odd. She didn't make herself look great. And I think this hurt her ego, and she wanted to find a way to find
Yeah.
fault. Because based on his evidence, it's giving she came in and was like, I want this for myself. And Ryan was like, okay, we'll find a way to get it for you, baby. You have your wardrobe being delivered to your house, your penthouse.
That wasn't
even in your pre-contract. You went months without signing or adding notes to your nudity rider or signing the things asking for escrow in good faith, getting the escrow, seeing those emails where they're like, hey, we gave you 2 escrow payments. Are they still in escrow? Can we get these forms signed, please? Like, that's weird. So those things do come in question when you look at it. She just kind of threw this thing out there, and the way she went about it, going through New York Times, why didn't you just go ahead and file?
I think that she
you
has
used
so
New
many
York
people handle
Times to
things for
take-
her.
Totally, and I think those people are steering her very wrong, and I don't know how this is going to play out because, again, their side says they have concrete evidence to support the sexual harassment claim. Based on what they have in there, he's kind of deflated that. So unless they've got something, like maybe she's got some iPhone recordings, and who knows? We don't know. They'll obviously let us know soon, I would think.
And if he did do that, he deserves to be put on blast. Period.
Sure.
It's tough, I don't know. I just kind of feel like this whole thing, it just got dirty and became all about publicity. Because for there to be, and now, was it fascinating to read that huge section about the PR teams? That was fascinating because, it's like we know technically how it all works, but to actually see how the sausage is made, I thought, hey, this is fantastic. I think a lot of things are going to be changing in contracts for films now. This is going to be a precedent moving forward about lawsuits and NDAs and things like that. It's going to get very
No,
I don't think we're going to see this allowed to happen again.
Nope. This is going to be a big learning lesson for everyone's watching this and being like, we've got to change our contracts yesterday. It's not because it's just
truly.
You're going to get a lot of people that are going to then take this and be like, well, wait a second. I'm sure there's things like this happen all the time because the lines do get blurred, right? And also depending on the content of the movie. But it's I don't know. I think this is going to be very interesting to watch play out so publicly. I definitely see a Hulu docuseries coming out of this. where
Oh
we're gonna
yeah.
get we need it all. Like like this is gonna be I don't even know. This is gonna be insane.
The industry, I'm going to tell you right now, is not going to love this because all the behind the scenes stuff of how it works is going to be exposed and they are not going to like that. So that's another thing that I think is going to factor into how it gets settled.
It's all a mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all a mess. It's all a
Yep.
mess. But you know what? The good thing is that it is so public and we are so nosy. And
We are.
we're gonna keep talking about it. And I love that. Well, part of the reason why I thought you should be talking about this with me today is because you're an
Mm.
actor and you've been on sets and I haven't. So it's like wanted to also see what your side of it was as someone who's been on sets who understands the reality of maybe some of the things that are spoken about when it comes to that.
Yeah, I can tell you already from my first thoughts, like I said, the method acting, I find that very bizarre. I find it unnecessary. Also, the inc- it scares me every time I hear these sounds. I'm like, on top of that, Ryan being the one to rewrite the scenes when he has no credit on the film, and then that's what I'm going through my that's what's going through my brain, and then I do see one of the execs says he does not have a writing credit. What is this? What is this about? It was ridiculous, and it was incredibly unprofessional to me. If you want doing rewrites, you don't just go do that at home and be like, here's the new script when you're not. Blake wasn't a producer. They were now it's alleged that they felt this immense pressure and almost extorted into writing a letter to the PGA, the Producers Guild of America, for Blake to have that credit. And so at that point, she wasn't a producer. So no, you don't do that. There are only two writers that have credits on this film. One being Colleen Hoover, who obviously we know it was adapted from her novel, and this one other woman. Where is she in all of this conversation is something else I'm curious about, because writers, they write language and beats and things in a very particular way. And for this woman, who I can't remember her name off the top of my head, please forgive me, I will look it up in just a moment. For her to be in this position, I looked at her credits. I believe this was the third major film she's done, I will say. She doesn't have a ton of credits. So I'm also curious where it is she came from and why we aren't hearing from her very much, because she wrote it. And why she's the only one aside from Colleen who has an actual writing credit. And now, do I think Ryan rewrote this scene to be better than maybe it was, make it less heavy? Yeah. But it just felt like there was a lot of stuff where Blake was getting people to do things for her that, again, the same word, were unnecessary to do. If it's tough, if you don't like the writing and it feels inauthentic to who you have developed the character as, then that's one conversation. But it doesn't sound like she had a lot of development into this character. And, the things like her wanting to have a very close set during the birth scene, that's understandable because, yes, it is going to play in huge screens across the United States and beyond. But trying to stay in that moment when there are like literally 80 people standing there staring at you, quite literally, yes, that's uncomfortable and that's totally fine. But, it also kind of reminds me of that moment when a PA walked in Christian Bale's eye line when he was filming and he lost it. And that's another example of, if someone is going a little method, it goes too far and it's not, you need to be careful when you do that. People need to know really what they're doing. And I don't know, obviously, we don't know how Justin maybe took something too far or not, but that's where the communication needed to be less fluff and blowing smoke, glitter, and rainbows up each other's asses, and actually getting down to, here's what I'm comfortable with and here's what I'm not comfortable with. And all she really said in those messages that I saw that he provided, now I'm sure there are so many more, was that she just seemed offended and hurt that he didn't have a, wow, Blake, that's an amazing rewrite. to something she rewrote.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly how it felt reading it back. It was like even her point to say, "Oh, the fact that you love my passion but not what I wrote is like ouch." It's like, "Girl, give me a break. You probably didn't even write it. Ryan did." And it's like, yes, he helped you write it by holding your hand with the pen, and like it seems like he is just her ghostwriter, and he and whoever else, Leslie and all the people that are around her that gas her up, in my opinion, unnecessarily, because logic would say, if you are uncomfortable, just quit. You don't need the movie that bad. You already said it was a small budget film. You talked a lot about
I
that when you talked about the clothing, and you wanted to make he mentions in his lawsuit like that she wanted to make it clear that Lily did have money. Because like how would she know otherwise? She just made up a character that she wanted to play in a rom-com that was really about DV, and then when she had to do the DV parts and she wasn't getting her way with the script rewrites every time, and then slowly she took over everything, now she's mad
yeah.
that she didn't do well on the marketing and the promo. It's like, why would you not look up statistics on DV? Why would you promote alcohol during, and he says that at the after party, he alleges that there was even a drink called Rile's something. Rile's, it was like an odd name, but it was like a spin on, yeah, it had Ryle in it, but it was like a drink named after Ryle. And it was like, that is not the vibe. Like, that is exactly the problem, though, is that Ryle drinks and that fuels DV. Like, that makes everything. Just look at the statistics, and it keeps pointing back to the nomore.org. So
Yeah.
it feels like she was led the wrong direction here. I think she took this too far, and I think if this gets proven to be that she is not telling the truth, this will
Oh,
absolutely
gosh.
destroy her entire career. It will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Ryle You Wait was the name of it. Ryle You Wait. Ryan probably made that drink up. Let's be honest. He probably was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, let's call it Ryle You Wait," because he was, Then we had that whole thing about Justin's team asking Disney and Marvel to hold on to the receipts on the Nice Pool character.
Nice Pool.
And that, yeah, I called him Good Pool, which was funny in my video. I called him Good Pool.
I just am feeling it's so ironic how high school never ends, does it?
No.
It feels very mean girl bully-esque on a whole other level. If this is, and I'm just going to keep prefacing it with, if this is actually what it is, only because I'm tired of saying the word allegedly constantly. I think I think I get frustrated by this because I would like to be able to hold people who are that successful in a higher regard and for them to be above this. But it's starting to seem as though they're not. It's very sophomoric, it's very juvenile, and I just don't understand what they had to gain by, if that really is what they were doing, by openly mocking him. Come on. Yeah, totally agree, Miriam. Yeah.
This needs to be filmed like reunion style. This trial. I want it like, I want couches. I want people like hair, makeup, all of it.
We'll moderate.
Danny Gossip
Oh, hi,
Girl's in the
Danny.
house. You're never late.
So good to see you.
You're never late,
I
doll.
know.
No, but listen, honestly, this is going to continue to unfold. We know that they probably on both sides have more things that they can put forward. I would like to think that her legal team is not just sitting on what they put in that lawsuit, right? Like, I'm not assuming that, but at the same time, it will just be interesting to see how they combat what he's put forward. Like, what's their defense against what his positioning, and how are they going to explain if in fact those videos come out, because they will, and that further backs up his side. It's all going to be.
Listen, you know what I need them to do? Exactly what happened on the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City finale. I need everyone to pull out their phones and find the message that was the meanest thing they said about each other, and then they each have to read it.
That would actually be a fantastic idea. I would love it. And actually, next time I have a dinner party, I'm going to do that game just to get things interesting.
Just make sure it doesn't end off with someone saying that they heard someone else's husband does circle jerks, but just
well, someone really needed to get a rumor out there. She needed to take whatever opportunity she could to take that last dig.
Girl, Whitney, that was ooh. It was just
dirty.
Yes, friends, we will try and work on getting back on the live schedule. I have been
there's been a lot of lifing, to be fair.
For both of us, yes.
Right.
Listen, Giorgio and I usually would be talking at least once a day, and we're finally catching back up together. Y'all know how it is. When you have a real friend, it doesn't have to, be constant contact, even though we usually are. We had some chaotic things. Some of them were good, though. I'm gonna say that, but it's
like a
just
beautiful chaos is what I would describe it. It's just a lot of tennis balls and just trying to figure out what this new normal is as of right now. And there's a lot of changes. Caitlin moved into a new place. She's readjusting. There's been a lot of things happening. The holidays, my God.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could, you and I will talk. Y'all just keep an eye out on all the social media stuff. Apparently, I don't know if it needs to be TikTok or Instagram.
Well, speaking of Instagram, I have been letting you guys know that all the peeps that are on my Instagram have been hassling me about why I don't do Instagram lives. And so, as I mentioned earlier in the week, I will be doing a morning live Monday through Friday on Instagram called Wake Up with Giorgio Says. So, shameless plug.
With Giorgio Says, in the morning, wake up with Giorgio Says. Wake up with Giorgio Says.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was jamming out.
Hey, I try to keep it upbeat. I try to keep it upbeat and fun over here. It can get a little weird talking to yourself. So I need a little music and some animation. So hopefully everyone who's watching appreciates that as the live count drops.
I don't know. Giorgio, should we start doing Thursday lives again? Should we do it?
We should definitely talk about it for sure, because I'm definitely going live Monday through Friday now at 4 p.m. So we definitely need to talk about getting back into the swing of doing something for sure. But guys, speaking of which, I just want to let you guys know, I will be letting you guys know the official time for my Instagram morning lives tomorrow. Thank you to everyone who's been reaching out, letting me know what times they would prefer. Obviously, I will do my best to pick up a time that I can manage as well, but I also understand that people have a lot going on. So that being said, if you have been in the live chat, first of all, thanks to Jeff, who is our moderator on the Giorgio Says YouTube channel.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, honey.
Please turn on those notifications, and please subscribe. Hit the like button if you're in the chat. If you're part of the replay crew, no worries. These replays are always available on the YouTube channel. You can also listen to the audio version wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you feel inclined to give me a 5-star rating on the Giorgio Says podcast, I would greatly appreciate that. Caitlin, let everyone know where they can find you, what's happening.
Yeah. So, also the besties, I finally was able to change my YouTube channel to be at Besties by Caitlin so that it's just all streamlined. The podcast is still Besties by Bravo. You can listen to Besties by Bravo literally anywhere you get your podcasts. And it's at Besties by Caitlin, Caitlin, on all the social media channels. And I think Giorgio and I are going to have to work on like going live again. We just had too much fun doing it.
Yes, and there's definitely going to be some new shows that are going to be premiering very soon. So there's going to be a lot to cover, guys. But Caitlin, thank you so much for jumping on.
Oh, thank
the
you.
Live. It was great just doing this again. It's been too long. I want to thank everyone in the chat again who showed up and showed out and gave your opinion.
Yes.
Thank you always. I am going to stop ranting and leave you guys so you guys can go on with your Friday night and be normal adults and not sit at a YouTube screen. But that's all for now, guys. I'll see you guys on Monday, and stay safe out there until the next time. I will talk to you soon. Bye.
We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the Giorgio Says podcast. We need to talk about So hit that play, stay in the know. Giorgio's here to steal the show on the Giorgio Says podcast.